Hey everybody, this is Kendall Anise and welcome to Remixing Relationships. I'm so excited about this episode today. What am I talking about today? I'm talking about dating and preferences, right? Is it silly or is it on point? I have a guest with me later today. I just want to I'll wait until my guest comes on. He's coming on now. I'm going to introduce you to him, of course. All right. Remixing Relationships starts now. Coach Kendall Anise. All right, so welcome to Remixing Relationships, where we dive deep into the art of creating and sustaining healthy connections. I am your host, once again, Kendall Anise, your fave life coach, and together we'll explore fresh perspectives and strategies to transform your relationship, whether you're looking to strengthen, heal, or completely remix your love connections. You are in the right place. Let me tell you, get your construction boots on and your swim caps because we are diving deep and stepping on toes. This is a real podcast. It's not about sugarcoating things. It's not about, okay, let's play it safe. We're going to talk real on this podcast. I don't know how to do it any other way. This is about promoting healthy relationships. And sometimes you got to have hard conversations and you got to keep it all the way a buck, 100 with some of these folks, even yourself, because that's the only way you're going to have a healthy relationship. And you might say, well, I'm in a relationship right now. It's pretty healthy. I guarantee you, professionally and personally, that your relationship is not as healthy as it can be. So today is an interesting subject. I have one of my favorite people on today. He's not new to my channel. Anytime I want somebody to keep it all the way, well, first of all my guests keep it all the way real. I'm not going to have somebody on here that's not telling the whole truth, not giving their full opinions. If you notice, I don't have timid folks on my show. And there's nothing wrong with being timid because you can still be timid and truthful, right? But I need people to keep it all the way real. So my brother keeps it all the way real. He don't care if it's 5,000 people in the room and he got the one opinion. He's going to stand true to that. And I can always admire and respect someone who stands by their opinion. All right. So when I had this subject, he was the first person that I thought about. So the subject is, as I stated a little earlier, it is about dating preferences. Are they silly or are they necessary, right on target? So the reason why, several reasons why this guest, I was like, I got to have him. I can't have nobody else for this because we talk about relationships often, right? And I'll let him tell you how tall he is, but he's on the shorter side. And he says, it gets on my nerves when women be like, oh, I don't date this person because they're short or this, that, and the other. And he'll often show me like leading men like Morris Chestnut, Omar Epps, or Mekhi Phifer. They're on the shorter side. And you know how women say, I want tall, dark, and handsome. He like, what's wrong with a short dude? And you know how they used to say some short dudes have Napoleon complex, right? And they're insecure. Well, honey, this man showed me totally different. Without further ado, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., the impact builder, and he's also a connector and my brother for life, Leroy McKenzie Jr.
What's up, man? What's going
Leroy,
on, lady? What's
you
up
know
with
I'm
you?
telling the truth. You know
You a
I'm telling
mess.
the truth.
You a mess.
You know it's true. Look, like Millie Vanilli, boy,
Actually,
you know it's true.
it's true. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
I love you. Oh, you know it's true. All right. And
They was
by the
lip syncing before lip syncing became a thing.
way, man, they did Milli Vanilli wrong. I saw the documentary on not Netflix, and I wanted to give Fab a hug because he could really sing. You
Oh,
know, the
okay, okay,
one
okay,
that
okay.
unalived himself, right?
Wow. Oh
Um,
no, I didn't know that. Okay.
like a overdose of some sorts because of the
Oh
backlash
wow.
and how people were treating
Yeah.
him. And
Right.
Fab is married now. He has children, and he could really sing. He started his career. He looks great. So that's a
Mhm.
redemption story, but they're gonna leave Millie Vanilli alone. All right. So, Leroy, when I ask you, and I'm going to introduce the show properly, and I'm going to give some statistics as always. But when I ask you about this um topic, what were your thoughts? And did you think about the short preference when I ask you?
Well, I thought about that word preference
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
how you ask the question.
Mhm.
Are preferences, are they silly or are they? Did you say are they necessary? I think.
Yes.
How you asked it, and it was just like, okay, everybody. I think we all have our preferences,
Mhm.
but I do think that what society today
Mhm.
has done is try to make those preferences um what's the word I'm looking for? They try to make the preference
Like absolutes, like
not
this is
it
the standard.
well not yeah not just the standard, but what's the word I'm looking for? They try to make preferences seem as if they're non-negotiables.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, if he doesn't have A, B, C, D, E, F,
Yeah.
which are the things that I would like him or her to
Yeah.
have.
Yes.
But you have a society today that says, look, he and she got to have all of them, or it's
Yes.
nothing. Which I
Yes.
think is, which I think is silly. I think
Yes.
that is silly. I think that's crazy. You
So
know.
let me tell you. So
So,
preferences in dating reflect values. I got my notes: self awareness, personal boundaries. So exploring this topic, we're going to spark some good conversation, y'all. So again, welcome. So what we're going to be talking about is dating preferences. Are they important? Do they shape relationships? And I have a question. Are preferences helping us find love, or are they holding
mm,
us back? So, listen. So, everybody has their preferences, right? Everyone says, okay, these are my preferences. Like Leroy just said, these are my non negotiables. So, did you know 74% of singles consider shared values more important than physical attraction? So, we're going to talk about, I'm going to ask that question. I'm going to pose it to our audience, whether you're watching live or the playback, and to Leroy. Are preferences helping us find love, or you think they're holding us back?
no, honestly, I believe they're holding us back. And like I said, I think it goes to what we see in this digital age and
Mhm,
era that we're in. It's actually put more in the forefront. These were things that I like. I think I told you before. Me and my buddy Craig and
mhm.
and the guys that I hung around in college, we were talking about this stuff long before the internet came along.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How women's preferences were the dude that back then it was the light skinned dude.
Christopher
Um,
Williams, Albie
You're
Shore.
right. The Albie should, all of that. It was he had to look a certain way. He
Mhm,
had to have a certain amount of money. He had to
mhm,
drive a certain car, which is
mhm.
everything that you hear today. But
Yeah.
it's put more. It's more accessible, as Will Smith said. It's not that we didn't have those things that we talked about back then, which we did, because we
Mhm,
would have those conversations. The difference between then and now, it was done within without cameras. It was done
mhm,
without the internet in this digital era that we're in. So now, instead of it just being, a small group of us, you're talking, thousands, possibly millions of people. You know what I'm
mhm.
saying? So
Mhm.
I think that's the difference. And what has happened is the the younger generation,
Mhm.
they have been consumed into what this media thing has said and done, because they're listening more to what media and society says versus what what their parents may have said, and even what their friends, their immediate friends might have said, because you you might have your immediate friends, but like, are really, you thinking about that? But they're just so consumed with being liked, with having things like
Mhm.
everybody else, that what's the Robin Leach, the
Oh,
lifestyles of the rich
lifestyle
and
of the rich and
lifestyles of
famous.
the rich and famous. They
Mhm.
think that that's them. And
Yeah.
I think you said this before too. This digital era has sold so many young people this
Mhm.
fantasy
Mhm.
that it really has. And it's,
Yep.
as Malcolm X said, the media is the most powerful tool that is out there, because
Yeah.
it can make things seem as if they are when they're actually not. Think about it. The
Right.
reality TV
Facade.
thing.
Mhm.
People are going around thinking about, oh, and you'll hear people say, oh, that's just Clubhouse, or that's just social media. That ain't real.
Mhm. Yep, it's your real life and then your social media facade. All right,
Yeah.
so let's talk about what are some dating preferences. So dating preferences, as I spoke about earlier, we're gonna unpack that. So physical appearance, the height, the fitness level. Are you in shape? Are you out of shape? Are you skinny? Are you tall? Are you thick? Are you, bald? Do you have hair? Do you have facial hair? What is it? And I'm going to get into the height one because, again, Leroy and I often talk about this. All right. So, emotional preferences, communication style, love language. I think that that's important. It's my preference that you know how to communicate. It's my preference that you speak to me in a gentle voice. You don't sound, aggravated or yelling, or you sound like a loving voice, or you know how to effectively communicate, and, both parties are heard. Love languages are super important. So that is a preference. Lifestyle, like we always talk about career, the income, but we got to put the hobbies in there because that's part of the lifestyle. I know when I was on dating apps, and you and I both have this in common, we love to read, we love to educate ourselves, and be knowledgeable about things. I would ask, what's the last book you read? One guy said, you mean for fun? I said, yes, or to be enlightened. He was like, well, I hadn't read since high school. He was like 57.
But
So that
here's
is
the
a preference that you do read. I said, well, do you listen to a podcast? I don't listen to podcasts. He really said it. You remember when I was doing the TikTok videos with what my dating was going on, so that is a preference that you are intelligent. And then I'll let you have the floor, Leroy. So values, your religion is important, family, future goals. Leroy and I can both attest that religion and having that spiritual foundation. Leroy is a family guy as well. Future goals, that's a preference. So we're going to discuss common preferences and trends today. So also, and we're going to ask you guys watching, what's your number one preference when dating? But I'm gonna let you have the floor, Leroy. Physical, we talked about the short. I want you to talk about that. Emotional, communication styles, love language, lifestyle, career, money. I know you got an opinion on that. And values, religion, family, future goals. What you got? I gave you a whole lot to talk
I was gonna say that, I just turned 56, so my brain ain't working like it used to. Yeah.
about. You still smart. You still kind of, you still potent.
I was talking to my buddy the other day, and I said, "Yeah, I'm officially over the speed limit now."
Right, over 55. My girlfriend last year, she had a 55 party and it had speed limit 55. I said, "Well,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's funny."
But But to address, I guess the list that you said, and I'll start with the height thing. You don't hear that when it comes to guys. Guys don't usually have that preference. I rarely hear guys say, "I need a woman that's if she 5 foot, 5'5" or 5'3", 5'2". I can't talk to her.
Bananas.
Look at Simone Biles and her husband. Simone Biles is Simone Biles 5 feet? She might even be
Barely.
4'11". Yeah, I'm
Right.
gonna
Barely.
say she might
Hmm.
even be 4'11", and her husband he's got to be at least 6'1", maybe. I know he's over 6. I believe he's over 6 feet tall.
Hmm.
Now, can you imagine him saying, "Nah, I can't date a woman that's below 5'5"? He'd have never. And they met on a dating app.
Oh, they
They
met on
met.
Instagram. They met on Instagram.
Was it? Oh, I
He
thought it was
slid
a
in her
dating app.
DM. No, he slid
I
in
thought
her
it was a.
DM.
That's what I'm saying. I thought it was on, but I thought they had met on a dating app and they had filled out the information, and that was how they initially connected with each other.
I
So
only know
okay,
because I saw her documentary.
no, I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you. So, but usually you'll hear women are the ones that have the height preference, and they
Hmm.
talk about, well, he's got to be 6 feet tall. If he's not 6 feet tall, and this is women Simone Miles height. Say they can't date somebody that's short. Well, everybody is taller than you if you 5 foot or 5'3". I mean, and
Look,
even
my daughter is 4'11". She just turned 26. I said, "Girl, you gonna make a 5'7" man feel like a king."
you
I said,
know,
"You 5'5", and he gonna feel like he's 7 feet tall."
you
Uh,
know, but that's what you'll hear women say that they
mhm,
you know they that they prefer a guy 6 feet tall. They were like, and the first thing that comes out of their mouth whenever there are these conversations on height, well, that's my preference. Okay. But the average, and let me give people some statistics.
come
The
on, break it
average
down.
the average height of a guy is 6 feet tall. The average height of a female or woman is, I think, 5'5". I believe it's
That's
5'5".
me.
I don't think it's 5'7", but it's usually 5'5".
Mhm,
So you're going to meet more men that are probably between 5'5" and 6 feet than you are over 6 feet tall. That's the percentages that you have to deal with. And because I don't have the numbers as far as how many men are over, exactly how many men are over 6 feet tall.
mhm,
So when someone says that they have that preference, hey, that's cool. Do like what you like. But the
mhm,
thing of it is, and this is one thing that I will say that kind of I did agree with Kevin Samuels when he talked about the numbers. You shrink your number of men that you're going to meet significantly when you say he's got to be 6 feet or taller,
mhm.
because the average guy is not going to be over 6 feet tall.
I just pulled up the statistics.
Uh,
So Leroy is correct. According to the Centers for Disease and Control Prevention, CDC, the average height for a man in the United States is 5'9" points. Average height, so that's important. Average height for men varies across different regions of the world, but for the United States is 5'9". That's the average height,
yeah, and you got
which
some
is
of us that are
unbelievable.
above that, and some of us that are below that, and extremely
Mhm,
below that. You know, hey, but the thing is, what is people fail to understand or whatever. You have no control over your height. That ain't got nothing to do with you. And actually, it's funny because my dad was 5'9", maybe 6 feet, might have been 6 feet.
mhm.
My mother is 5'4". My mother's taller than me,
And telling people how tall you
and
are.
I'm 5'3". Now I
Mhm,
got now my brothers, my other brothers are all as tall as my dad, 5'8". There might be a couple. I think a couple of maybe a little shorter than that, and a
mhm,
couple of them are a little taller.
mhm.
And I remember joking with my dad one time saying, "Dad, where my height? Where my?" What you do with my height? I was like, I ain't getting none of that. But if you look at if you look at my family on my mother's side, my grandmother, her
Mhm.
mother, her biological mother was only 4'11". So I was like, that's
Yeah.
where I get my height from.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
comes from her side of the family.
Yeah.
So we don't control the genealogy of what we get, you
Yep.
know. And that's the thing that you can say to women all you want to, it doesn't matter because they want what they want. And hey,
Yeah.
like I said,
Yeah.
you can want what you want, you can have what you have, but do realize the likelihood of you meeting someone, or to discard someone basically only because of their height, you do yourself a disservice. To me,
Yes.
you
So
do
if you're
yourself
just
a
tuning
disservice when you
in,
do that.
my guest today for Remixing Relationships is Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., the Impact Builder. We are talking about dating preferences. Are they silly or are they right on target? Often Leroy and I talk about height, as he just said he's 5'3". If you listen in the beginning, I said they used to say shorter men had Napoleon complexes and they were insecure about it. But I told Leroy, like, he's 5'3", he's not insecure, and he's not what people say, oh, embarrassed or wishing to be tall and all of this. He's very secure. And I think that that is a myth, that if you're short, then you feel insecure or less than somebody who's tall, because of women saying, oh, I want somebody 6 feet tall. And like he used Simone Biles, she's only 4'11", 5 feet, and her husband is over 6 feet tall. And he said typically it's the shorter women who want the taller guys. All right. So I posed a question and I asked, what's your number one dating preference? So you guys can answer whether you're watching live or the playback. I want you to put it in the comments. And I'm going to ask you, Leroy. But also, let me just say this: men may be short, but if some of them stand on a wallet, they sure are tall, right? So people are
Yes,
like,
for sure.
oh, well, I don't like short men, but do you see this short billionaire? All of a sudden, they like short men.
Ask 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 Prince. Ask
Oh
Prince.
yeah, he used to have some, like the men say, he had some bad chicks, and he was short. He wore his heels, and he didn't appear to be insecure. But I'm
But
not sure. Let's see what this question is. And then I want Leroy to answer the question. So I can relate. My maternal grandfather was my size. Ironically, my grandmother was 6'3". So how tall are you, Dwight?
oh,
And
okay, is that my boy? Is that the white?
yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's
him.
your boy Dwight. That's your boy Dwight. All right. So Leroy, before I get into the second part, because I'm going to talk about when preferences are necessary, but I'll ask you, Leroy. So when you're dating and talking about preferences, what is your number one preference? I think I know the answer.
Well, I don't know if I have my preference
Hmm.
is
Come
I'll keep
on.
it a buck. I'll
No,
keep it a buck.
I know you're ready to talk about reasonable doubt.
Well, no, well, she actually isn't she's I don't know how tall she is. She's maybe five. Is she 5'7", 5'8", something like
She
that?
looks
She looks
about
like
that.
she looks
Am I
about
not?
5'7", 5'8". But to be
Hmm.
honest, my preference is short, thick, and light skin. If I could have, like, if I were to say what I wanted, it would be, if I perfect, short, thick, light skin.
Like
I
Elise
mean, you
Neal. That's why Elise Neal was one of yours.
oh,
That's why.
she not light skinned though. She ain't light skinned. She was caramel. She wasn't
Nobody
light
that
skinned.
you let me see. Leela James is not. I know all of
It's brown
Leroy's
skin.
women
Yeah,
crushes. So
yeah.
Leela
All of them
James
are
is not.
caramel.
Jill Scott. Jill
Lettuce
Scott.
is chocolate. All of them light.
Lettucey.
Yeah, they all chocolate. They all, yeah, chocolate
Because
little caramel.
I wouldn't even think that you had one, because the women that
Right.
you like that we know are all different. You don't get
But
along. Leela
true.
James, Leela Hathaway,
Correct. But
Eminence Cardinal.
if I would to if I were to be able to show you like my dating history and women
Hmm.
that I actually was involved with, short,
Hmm.
thick, and most of them were light skin or brown, the brown skin.
Mhm.
You know,
Okay.
that just happened to be how it fell. Now there were
Yes.
others that were outside of that because and I'll tell you this story. I don't know if I told you this before. It was this when back in the day, and this was growing up, and I was in high school, and it was this young lady named Kelly that
Mhm.
worked at the Giant up the street from
Come
where we
on,
live,
Kelly.
right? And I would go up to the Giant just to see if Kelly was working, right? Kelly was 5'9", all of 5'9", and
And Leroy's
Carolina,
only 5'3", y'all.
she
Just so you
she
know.
was Kelly was fine. I was just like, oh my God. And every time, even when I went in there and she was in there, I purposely got in her line just so I could see her and speak to her.
Sure you did.
But but she was the sweetest young lady I'd ever met too. She was always smiling, just very nice and everything like that. So we got to know each other. And one time, I don't think I asked her out, but kind of flirting that type thing or whatever. And she was like, Leroy, I couldn't date you. And
Oh, you did.
I said, wow. She said, cause you too short. She said, no. She said, I do. So I was like, okay, cool. So like I said, we wound up being friends, and we wound up going to, it was like a party or something like that together, because I think it was somewhere she wanted to go or whatever. And I didn't know about it. She had asked me to go with her to the party, right? So
Mhm.
we going to the party, and it wasn't in the friendliest of neighborhoods here in Baltimore. So, right. So it's people outside, and so we walking, and we get ready to walk inside.
Pause.
Get
You know it's the hood when people outside. They just outside. When I first moved here, I was like, Baltimore folks love to be outside
just
on a
outside.
sidewalk. Ain't doing nothing but just so you know it's
Just,
the hood. He was in the hood. That's basically he was saying they outside. But go
so
ahead.
we walking up. Guess who grabs my arm and is like tight on me? Now, now here you talk about
Kelly,
you
Kelly
don't
did.
want to date me, but the first thing you do when we're walking into this spot is you gonna grab my arm, and you gonna make sure that you close to me walking up in there, and everything like that. So I'm shaking my head like, yeah, yeah, okay, you know what I'm saying? So
Mhm,
I'm like, but that's one example of that's outside of the preference. I wasn't
Mhm.
stuck on the preference because
Yes.
she was just very beautiful. I thought she was gorgeous, and her personality is what her character. What she said, she was very pleasant. Like I said,
Mhm.
to me getting to know her, that was someone that I'm like, it wasn't when she said, "Oh, I couldn't date you." That I just turned away. I was like, all right, well, I'll hang out, or just be friends or whatever. And then when we went out, when we went out and started hanging, I was like, yeah, okay, she seemed to be just like a lot of other women, where they say they want the tall dude, and you have to answer this because I can't, because I don't get an answer from women when I ask them about why is height a preference.
Mhm.
They can't. Or
Mm,
I ask that, why is it a preference? And then two, does height have anything to do with a man's manhood?
mm,
How does
mm,
someone's height define you as a
mhm,
man, or does a height define him as a man? And they
mm,
won't answer the question, or don't answer the question.
mm,
It's always going here, going there, somewhere else off of it,
mhm,
because a lot of times, you'll hear women say that it's a security thing. Some have said that it's a security thing. I'm like,
mhm,
well, you got dudes that's over 6 feet tall and they can't fight a lick. They'll go down at the,
mhm.
at the
and they said the they
yeah,
are, the harder they fall.
right. And like I tell folks, it's not about the dog in the fight, it's about the fight in the dog. And
Mm,
any dude that you hit in his kneecaps, if I kick you in your knee in the right position, that leg is gonna buckle. It will buckle. I don't care who it is. That knee is gonna buckle. You're gonna bend over, and the next thing you're gonna see is this coming across your face, because you've now been brought down. It's just knowing what to do in certain situations to be able to protect yourself. But then two, it doesn't. Yet a man's or a woman's height has nothing to do with them being a woman or a man. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't define. It doesn't define you, and that's how I've always seen it, and have always said about it. But hey, people say what they want. Say what they say. They believe what they believe. They want what they want.
Yeah.
So hey, it is what it is. You know.
So Natalie says she has the answer. Why is it that women, and she is a licensed professional counselor. She's been on my show
Hmm.
before. Hey, Natalie, we got something cooking in Atlanta. So if you're watching from Atlanta in April, coming to your city, but stay tuned. But she says she has the answer. So we'll wait for that. But let me talk about, so my favorite show is Girlfriends. I've had the
Okay.
DVDs since 1990. Well, it came out in 1999. They did 8 seasons, right? So if you're familiar with Girlfriends, you have Tony on there. Tony
Yes.
married Todd. She would not
Correct.
marry Todd or date. She wouldn't even date Todd
Date him.
because he
Mm-hmm.
was too short. She about
Mm-hmm.
5'7", 5'8". He might be like Leroy's height, maybe like 5'3" ish, right? So she would not date him. He was attracted to her. He was very confident. He didn't care how tall she was. They would have little banter and jokes back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So one episode, she gets ready. She's in the car and she's coming out of the car and
Uh-huh.
she taps, you know what I'm talking about. She
Yep.
taps
I know the
the
episode.
guy's
Mm-hmm.
car. Yep. I know you was cheering for that episode. She tapped the guy's car getting out. You know how you open your door and you tap it. And he was like, "You hit my car." And she said, "I didn't hit your car." And then she said, "It's just a little tap." And he was like, "Clean it up, fix it." And he was getting real aggressive. Todd came out of nowhere. He just happened to be there trying to get some ice cream or whatever. He came out of nowhere and tackled the man down. And he was like, because Tony said what you said, protection. I want a tall guy, a short guy pretty much can't protect me. So he was like, "How was that?" Pretty much for a short guy, and did that. And then she's looking at him in awe. Fast forward, she ends up marrying him and all of that. But definitely people say protection. I'm going to wait to hear from Natalie and I'm going to go forth. And so preference. So let's go into when preferences are necessary. This is the life coach in me. We got to talk about it. So setting boundaries, wanting honesty and stability and all of that. Believe it or not, that is a preference because some
Hmm.
people don't have boundaries. Some people don't say honesty. They assume certain things. But I know I don't want a liar. So that is a preference because think about it. It's not a necessity for some people because some people want just an intimate relationship or a sexual relationship or somebody just to take them out to eat or they got an understanding or some type of conversation or not about certain things. So then ensuring compatibility, that's a preference in a sense. Shared goals, similar lifestyles. Think about it. If you are not a smoker of any kind, right? Even is legalized, right? And I'm not. I've never have been, right? My preference is I don't want a pothead. Why would I want
But
that?
it's
I don't want to smell like
but
it. I don't want my clothes like it. Where some people be like, "Oh, it's not a preference." Because when you're
but is
dating
that a
online, you
preference?
literally can put your preferences. Do they smoke? Do they drink? Yes, because even when
No,
you're
but
dating online, it'll ask you your preferences, right? And
but
it'll
is
say smoke or not. No, go ahead.
what I'm no what I was gonna say is that a preference or is that a non-negotiable for you? Because I know for me, drinking and smoking, that's a non-negotiable. And that ain't got nothing to do with a
But
preference. I ain't gonna see
yeah,
no
but it's
parts of
still
nobody that drinks or smokes.
right. So it is a non-negotiable for you, but for some, it is a preference.
Mm,
You know
mm,
what I'm saying?
mm.
So it can be, it's a non-negotiable. I totally agree. So then you have how so you got to think about how healthy preferences can guide towards the right relationship, because this podcast is about promoting healthy relationships and doing things differently. So when you are not afraid of somebody leaving you, right? Not afraid to turn down a date, not afraid to say, this ain't for me, I'm walking away, not afraid to choose you first. You're going to be bold about your preferences. And a lot of people have preferences, but Natalie and I did a show, Settling for the Pieces of Love. You can have a piece of my love,
Mm,
right? You can have a piece. So some people disregard their preferences, don't have them just for the sake of having somebody. So Natalie says she knows the answer. So let's see. Dwight says, what's her last name? I know Natalie. Natalie Alexander is her name. And if you want to catch that episode of Remixing Relationships, you can have a piece of my love. It is available on my YouTube channel. Definitely check that out. That was a very good episode. And if you're listening or watching now and you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel and you're watching maybe on Facebook or otherwise, please go to my YouTube channel, Kendall Anise, and click the subscribe button and share this video. I appreciate you guys. All right, so let's see. All right, you got your support here, Leroy. Bernice said here supporting Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. Woo woo.
mhm.
All right, so let's see what Natalie says. She just texted me. She said, my explanation is okay. It's scientifically proven that height defines the ability for a man to protect a woman, much like men looking for a woman with hips, because her hips equate the ability to bear children, which will ensure his legacy. Tell me what you think of that.
I disagree with it. Like I
Okay.
said,
And she said it's
oh,
scientifically proven.
okay, so if she says it's scientifically proven, so those women that don't have hips don't have children.
I
Those
don't have
men
big hips,
that
and I had two.
those men that don't necessarily have the height, 6 feet height, they don't know how to defend themselves, they don't know how to protect someone. I mean,
It does sound
where
interesting.
I would have to ask where that science how that was scientifically proven. Because
Okay.
I can't believe that they going around asking dudes that's over 6 feet tall, can you fight? Or is it something that is a societal um thing where people are conditioned to believe because a male or man is tall that he automatically has the ability to protect.
She's saying we're talking about what we are attracted to. And she's still, the bubbles are still going. So we're going to
Okay. And
get the rest of that from her. But yes, and we are talking about preferences. So maybe she's saying, what it sounds like to me she's saying is women are attracted to
mhm,
the height, and men are attracted to body yada 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 in the hips because they're thinking about maybe sensual or sexual or something like that. But while we're waiting for
yeah.
that answer, here's the next one. When preferences are limited, because that's what we're talking about too, and that goes right into what my brother is talking about. So rigid preferences might close off potential connections, like we talked about, unrealistic standards.
Hmm.
Like, I prefer somebody who was perfect. I
Right.
somebody that don't go to the bathroom. You know how some men think, well, my wife never goes number two. I've heard. I was like, man, y'all been together 5 years. Her stomach is probably hurt. No wonder you think she pregnant. Her stomach is just gassy and bloated. Like, she don't got no big stomach. She ain't going to the bathroom, right?
It,
And then
she
super,
yeah,
huh?
she hasn't gone to the bathroom around him because there's no way humanly possible
Come
that
on.
you can not go to the bathroom. You might be able to
Yeah.
hold it for a period of time and not want that person to see you, I guess, having to go to the bathroom. I've never understood that. I'm like, yeah, we all have to go to the bathroom. I'm sorry, it's just something
All
we
of us.
do.
It,
All of us.
we are not
You can
above number two. Like, nobody is
yeah,
above number two. Period.
right, and you
Uh,
can you can mess your insides up doing that. I'm trying to hold it in. I know myself personally
With
from
colon, that colon.
from having to hold it, but it wasn't because I was trying to not go to the bathroom around somebody. But it's
Yes,
been, it can mess up your inside. We were conditioned to be able to get rid of toxic waste that's inside of
yes.
us. That's the way God created it. So there's no it shouldn't be anything that if anybody has a problem with you going to the bathroom, that should be a red flag to you. I'm sorry. Yeah, I
That's
gotta go.
yeah.
I gotta go.
Yeah, expecting you to be perfect. But I'm gonna be honest with you. There are a lot of shallow, and this is episode 21. I said 20, but it's actually
Mhm.
episode 21 for those that will be following and watching later, and if you're sending them to. But there are some men out there, and we're gonna talk about unrealistic expectations some more.
Yeah,
There's some men out there, they're unrealistic about women, and there are women out there that is unrealistic, like, you don't want the
yeah.
woman to do this. You don't want the woman to that. And I know I can't be stifled to be what you want in a box, right? It's just
Mhm.
foolish. But some people do have unrealistic expectations when it comes to dating. So let's talk about some more how some can limit. Like we talked about superficial preferences like height, and some may say looking for a woman or man, because there's some men gold diggers out there too, looking for a man or woman who only has money. And then the third one, over prioritizing preferences at the expense of connection. Think about that.
Well,
Sometimes we over prioritize preference at the expense of connection. Now, connection is powerful, right? We can't forget because some people have connections with somebody, but they'd be like, I don't date a man with a beard. I don't date a man with, I don't, with no chest hair. I don't date a man who is shorter than I am. I don't date a man who is this, or I don't date a woman who, doesn't wear her own hair, or I don't date a woman who doesn't have full lips, or I don't date a woman who has children, or I don't date a woman who, or a man with children, or I don't date a woman who wears, over a size 8, or whatever it is. Like, people have that. Do you have a right to have your preferences? I've heard men say, you know I've heard men in different panels say, I don't like an overweight woman. And that is a preference. But that overweight woman could be the best woman of their life. Or I don't date a man who may have a pot belly. But that man can lose that weight. That woman can lose that weight. But you don't see it past that. Somebody wants you to accept them for who they are, but you might be giving up on a good woman or man, and you're still single because of your preferences. Now, do you have a right to have preferences? Absolutely. All right, Leroy. So people are breaking their rules to now. What I'm seeing is to try to find love. Even, I remember I used to say, well, I like a tall guy. And it happened to be the guys that I was dating were tall. And years ago, I've given short brothers, opportunities. My rule was, though, they had to be taller than me a little bit, or my height or something. But then I've given them, they didn't work out, but they did not work out because they were under 6 foot. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you do have to go outside of that. Now, some people are rigid. They will not go outside of their preferences, and they're still single. Let's talk about that.
well, I think people, and I mean, this isn't something that's new. This has been, like I said, since whenever. And when you're rigid with what you call your preferences, then hey, if you're willing to accept the 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 small amount of people that you then limit yourself to, then that's on you, because you have, just like you just gave the list of what people, a man's salary is usually the thing, that because they need him to be 6 foot tall, he got to make
Mhm.
six figures. and and whatever else those and drive a drive a certain kind of car
But that's
or
six six
whatever.
six like the devil.
Right. People don't understand that either. But if you if you when you limit yourself like that, when you limit yourself to these superficial preferences, and that's what I call them.
Mhm.
A dude's height, a dude's money, and even the preference of saying that and I know you're not going to like this, but hey, but the other women won't agree with it either. But the man paying for the first date, I think
Hmm.
that the first date should be something that is neutral, where look, if we go out, yeah, I'm gonna act more than likely women are going to be asked out. You're gonna be asked out more than you're gonna be, than you're gonna be take a man out. There's very few women that can say, and I would even say there's no woman that can say that she's taking men out on a first date more
Mhm.
than she's been taken out on a first date. I'll put money on that. Um, but that is
How
a
much?
preference too. Say it again.
I said how much? You said I put money on there. I said how much?
Oh, I bet $1 million, and I ain't got $1 million. That I couldn't find a woman that has been, like I said, that has taken more men out on a first date than they've been asked out or gone out on a first date.
Mhm.
I don't think that there's a woman alive that has done that, because that's the way
Not a
that we've
woman
been taught.
alive.
That's the way we've been brought up. We've been brought up that way. That the man was the one who paid for the first date. and
Mhm.
and you have a lot of but nowadays, and I've never understood, hey, we don't know each other. So to have, I think what society has done today, and I'll say women, y'all don't send Kendall these emails, send them to me. She ain't saying this, I am. But women have to understand, especially in these days, like I just said, women aren't doing the asking out. So of course you're not going to have to worry about paying, because the first
These
thing that
young
they'll
ones
say
are
is,
though. Let's stop. Let's stop right there. These young ones are. They're bolder. It's not a
really?
traditional thing. They're jumping into
Mm,
men's. So how people are dating now is, even we talked about Simone Biles and her
hmm right.
professional athlete husband, right? I can't think of his name right now. But
Yeah, yeah.
they're using the social media apps for ways to
Correct.
date. And a lot of
Correct.
women are bold from what I'm hearing. When I was dating online, these men would tell me how aggressive these women were.
hmm
These men would tell me that they were bold. Because think about my dating age range is your dating age range, and
hmm
we're built a little different, right? They start going younger, and they would be telling me stories, and I'd be like, what? See, and with some men too in that age bracket, I have been on dates. They like, don't you dare pull out your wallet. You don't have to pay for nothing. They were traditional, and I
Well,
guess some would say old fashioned. They were not even having it, and then some
but
men will sit back and let the woman do everything and not do anything. And that could be a preference
well,
too.
but see,
Jonathan
here's
Owen,
the thing.
that's his name.
But here's the thing with with that whole thing. Most of the guys that say, well, they want to, they don't, a woman doesn't have to pay for anything when it comes to them. I'm like, they wonder why women have this entitlement. Some women, females, have this entitlement type of feeling. Well, I expect him to do this. I expect him to pay 100% of the rent. I expect him to pay 100% of the mortgage. I expect him to do everything, even once you get to the relationship part of it.
So
They
let me
wonder
pause. Let me
why.
pause you right there and talk to the people. So this is the thing. That's why communication is super important. And that's why it's a preference of mine. And that's a preference. Can somebody communicate? Because those are type of things that should be discussed in a relationship, right? And not feel like I'm assume this, and you're gonna have to do this. Then when that's the breakdown that happens in a lot of relationships in a lot of different areas where you're expecting and assuming the person to do this, and when they don't meet your expectation and need, then there's a problem. That's why it's so important to communicate. And you're right. Some will say, I ain't gonna work, and some men too. We're living in the day. Trust me, I know this. Period. Right? You want to ask me how I know? I'll teach you. I'll show you in another episode. Leroy know what I'm talking about. But some men do want women to take care of them. So sometimes where you think traditionally, oh, it's the woman, there are some men that go from one woman to the next and each woman takes care of them. They're going to this woman's house, they're going to that woman's house, that girlfriend, and they're basing their relationships on who they can stay with, right? Who they can get stuff from, who they could do. There are both men and women like that. And I don't know if their preference is for somebody to take care of. I guess that's what you're saying too, Leroy.
Well, but I mean, no, the thing of it is when you talk about preferences, like you said, when you're talking
Can you
about
hear me? Is he
preferences,
frozen? I'm frozen.
no, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, but when
So
you're
I'm gonna
talking
move
about,
on. Okay, there he is. What'd you
okay,
say? I can
no,
hear you now.
when you're talking about preferences, here's the thing that I've learned about men, women, when they'll talk about one thing, they'll talk about their preferences. But I've said this before, we've talked about this. I said, I want those women, men that have preferences and talk about all of those things. Take a look at your dating history. You can say you have preferences all you want, but what is your dating history shown? Has it been those preferences? Have you had those
Come
preferences
on.
that you wanted
You
to be able
always
to
say
have?
that. Mhm.
Or have you dated, like you were saying, you bent those preferences because you didn't, or because he looked cute, or she had the, like you said, she had the hips, to go along with it. Yeah, you was more concerned about the hips and how she looked on your
And the
arm
thighs,
versus,
the big
right.
thighs that save lives.
Yeah, right. Versus her character or his character and who he was or who she was. And take a look at your dating history. Anybody, take a look at your
Mm-hmm.
dating history and tell me what your dating
Mm-hmm.
history is versus your preferences that you say you had.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're serious about our preferences, which I don't think a lot of people are in this day and age, you're not serious about your preferences, because if you didn't, or if you were serious about it, then you wouldn't be dating half the people that you going out with, especially the ones like you said about about the height thing. How many
Yep.
women, how many women would be dating men out here if they say that their preference is to date a man 6 feet or taller? Like I said, the average number of guys is on. I think it might be 20%. I think it's like 20% of guys are over 6 feet tall. So you you're willing to only date, and it was this. I don't know if you saw it. It was on TikTok. It was a one of those what's the dude that has the conversation thing
Mm-hmm.
show. But it was on TikTok, and they had a panel discussion, and this brother broke it down. And he talked about how he broke down the numbers. He said women say that they will only, some women say they only date men over 6 feet tall. He was like, that limits you to 20% of the men. He was
Yep.
like, then you say he's got to make over 6K,
Mm-hmm.
over six figures. I'm sorry. That drops that 20% down to 10%. So now you're
Mm-hmm.
only dating down to 10% of the men. He said, then what did he say? He said, then he has to be a certain, he has to drive a certain car. He was like, that drops it down to, or you don't date a guy with children. You don't date a man with kids. So that drops that 10% down to 5%. Then he said, and the funny thing he said was, he was like, you break it down to, then you don't date a certain sign. If he's an Aquarius, if he's a Capricorn, I ain't dating. And by the time he finished, it was down to like 0.5%. It was like, so now you done down. Like you're down to 0.5%. He said, but then out of that 0.5%, not only is it 0.5%, you got to find that dude or hope that he finds you. And then you got to hope that he likes you because he's going to have, he's
Oh,
going to, so, I mean, and people can agree with it or disagree with it, but those numbers are real when you think about how people break down their preferences. Break
Mm-hmm.
down your preferences and
Mm-hmm.
see what you come out with and ask yourself, am I willing to wait for or only deal with 5% of the people that I'm able to be able to, that I'm really going to meet? And then even within that small percentage of people, then you try and say, well, you got to have some type of character.
And he
He's
gotta
got to
have
have,
swag. And he gotta be
right,
this.
right.
But that's why these women and men, because men settle as well,
Correct,
taking
correct, correct.
pieces of
Right.
love, right? Pieces
Hmm.
of it. People not treating them the way that they deserve to be treated, both men and women, right? And that's where you have these people taking pieces of love because at the end of the day, that's the one thing we all have in common. I say it all the time is love. We all want to be somebody's baby. We all want to be special to somebody. That's universal. Love. The dating apps are making millions of dollars. The dating shows
Mm,
are making millions of dollars. The
mm,
reality shows Finding Love, Married at First Sight, Love is Blind. Now the one for 50 and overs, The Later Daters, this executive produced by Michelle Obama. I have that review on my YouTube channel. But you
mm,
have all of these dating shows. You got Love After Lockup. You got Life After Lockup. You got 90 Day Fiance. You got all of these things. Everybody is looking for love. So somebody is doing something wrong. And that's why I have this podcast because anybody can get into a relationship. Anybody can get somebody to be in a relationship with them. But is it the right person? Is it quality? And are some of your preferences hindering you? Now, this is a free country, free will. You can have as many preferences as you want. But I challenge you to check some of your preferences. Like Leroy was talking about non-negotiables. There's some things that are non-negotiable. Period. Set your boundaries, set your standards. And if you have to be single another 6 months, another year, another 2 years, or 3 years, then so be it. Don't rush into something where you're compromising yourself. But if it's a preference like, well, he can't cook or she can't cook, y'all go to a cooking class together and sit down somewhere and eat. Right? You have men like, man, I can't because she can't cook, or women like, man, because he don't know how to wash clothes. And you hear all kind of stuff, and you're letting a good woman or a good man slip through your hands for foolishness. Now, when we're talking about religion and evenly yoke, I have an episode, Purpose Partnership. Those are certain things like Leroy was talking about, non-negotiables. So Natalie said the book is called The Male Brain, that talks about those preferences. But I want to talk about the last segment of this podcast episode, as we're talking about dating preferences. Are they important, or are they silly? So the remix approach to these preferences. So are preferences guiding? Ask yourself this question. If you're out there dating, or if you're thinking about leaving somebody because they're not meeting your preference, ask yourself this: are my preferences guiding me towards love or away from it? Let's talk about that for a moment, Leroy, and then I want to sum up the show, because I will say this. Let me say this, and then I'll let you have the floor. So there are we got to find some type of balance, right? We got to make sure people have solid relationships and connections. Everybody wants love. Again, I want people to have a healthy love. So there are must haves, which are non negotiables, if you will, and they're nice to have. Like it would be nice to have a man when I hug him that I can put my hands up here and not down here, right? That could be, it's nice to have, since we were talking about height. Or it would be nice to have a man with more than $23 in the bank. That would be nice to have, right? But then ask yourself the same thing. Are you exuding, or are you carrying, or do you have what you're asking for? Because if you want a man with an 840 credit score and your credit score is 12, then that's not going to work. If you want a woman who is tidy, neat, and clean, and you're a mess, is that fair? Do you want a man or a woman who loves their family? I want a family woman. I want a family man, but you ain't talked to your family in 6, 7 months. So the things that you're asking for are a preference. Oh, I want a man with this, or I want a woman with this, but you don't have that, right? I want a woman with a bikini body, but you got a beer keg in your stomach. So think about those kind of preferences to make sure you exude what you're asking for. All right. Lastly, and then I'm giving the floor to Leroy. I done lost my notes. Okay. Um, so we talked about the must-haves and the nice-to-haves. Focus on qualities that build relationships, lasting relationships, right? A lot of people can get into relationships, but a lot of people can't keep them, right? Because we have deal breakers, we have non-negotiables. I'm divorced more than one time, right? Um, and the first time I ever got married, I was 20 years old. What I know? What I know? Not much, but you got to think about qualities that are built to last, right? You have to look at those type of things, silly things. Not to say that all 50% of marriages end in divorce because people's preferences are, too deep. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is we have to examine all parts of it, and it starts oftentimes in the dating realm, because if certain non-negotiables are important to you and certain things are must-haves to you, and that woman or man does not possess it, and you're going forth, there's going to be an issue, and you're probably going to end up divorcing if certain things that are non-negotiable. If you want a man or woman of faith, you want a man or woman that goes to church, let's just say man or woman that goes to whatever religion you are, right? And they don't. God can change somebody. Absolutely, they could go. But if something's non-negotiable, you waiting for 40 years for somebody to go, and they done told you no. You want somebody to have children with. They said, no, I'm not interested. But you think that you can go change people or whatever it is. So you got to think about those things. And lastly, I'll say, stay open to unexpected connections, even if they don't meet your expectation. All right, Leroy, you got the floor.
Well, I mean, here's my simple dating, and this has to do with your choices in anything in life. You have to develop what I call, and what I've learned to get, because I learned this being in a mastermind that I'm getting from one of my business associates, is having a personal value system. And these are 7 principles that I guide my choices and decisions on, whether it's business or whether it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
Those seven principles are wisdom, vision, uniqueness, commitment, consistency, uh, uh, excellence, and accountability. If you can't fit into those 7 things, and I ain't saying you got to have
Mm-hmm.
exactly all 7 to be perfect, because none of us are perfect. That is something that it makes your decision making easier when it comes to dating someone. You have to establish what your PVS is, what your personal value system is. Mine is, I need someone that's intelligent, that's wisdom. I need someone that has a vision. I need someone that is unique. They're
Mm-hmm.
comfortable in being themselves, and not letting society dictate who they are. Someone that's committed. They commit to anything, whatever it is in life, they committed to it. They show a commitment to it, because if they're committed to certain things, aspects of their life, they're gonna be committed in a relationship. Someone who's consistent. Do you do what you say? It's that simple. Do you have a mindset of excellence? Do you have a mindset of, yeah, I want to do everything that I'm doing, I'm trying to do in excellence. I don't half step on things. I'm going to put my best effort towards any and everything. And accountability. Is that someone, is this somebody that holds themselves accountable? And I can roll off those seven. And if I ain't gotta ask somebody, well, do you have, yeah, you can ask someone if they have a vision, but that it will come in a casual conversation. Those seven things, I'm not going to sit there and read off the list and ask them, do they meet the list? It's going to be a thing where when I meet that person, these are the things that I'm looking to find out. I already know what I'm looking for. So it's a thing of, okay, yeah, they showed me right there that she showed me there that she's unique. She's not worried about what other people think about her.
Mhm.
She has wisdom, because I can have an intelligent conversation with her. We can talk about a myriad of things. It's not where we talking about what the latest thing is on reality TV. You know what I'm saying? Just reality TV. We can have a conversation about politics. We can have a conversation about religion and all of those things. But when you have a set of, of principles that you're looking for, principles stay the same. The preferences are things that can sway, because, like you said, somebody can say, well, yeah, that's not something that I'm willing to tell them no for. But you got
Mhm.
people these days, their preferences are their non-negotiables, and to me, there's a difference. you know, yeah, I can prefer to want someone who is light skinned, but I'm not basing me being in the relationship with only someone who's light skinned.
Mhm.
I'm not, if from a female perspective, I'm not just saying if he doesn't make six figures, I won't date him. You got women out here that will say they ain't date the dude if he don't make mid six figures. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, that's cool, but what percentage of men do you know are making six figures? Because the average salary of a black man is, I want to say, maybe 48,000, maybe 50,000. He ain't nowhere near making six figures. But that dude could be intelligent, could be have a vision for where it is that he wants to go, has a mission for where it is that his purpose in his life. He's unique. He doesn't allow people to dictate who he is. He's comfortable with who he is, loves what he does, and everything like that. He's committed. He's committed not only to
Not committed into the hospital, but committed.
right, right. He's committed to his family. He's
Mhm.
committed to his friends. He's
Mhm.
committed to whatever job that he's on, because he ain't
Mhm.
missed a day in
Mhm.
20, 30 years. He at work on time every day, all day. You know, he's consistent in what he does. He's going to be there when he says he's going to
Where's
be
your
there. He's going
man
to
at
do this.
work?
Yeah, right. I can run my clock. I can run my watch by him. I know where he is, when he's gonna be, how long he's gonna be there, this, that, and the other. He ain't just telling you he going around to the corner store and you and you don't see him for a couple hours. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. And having
Mhm.
someone that's gonna be accountable not only to himself, or herself, but is going to be accountable for who they say that the things that they're going to do or want to do. And you see that commitment to it. You see that accountability from them. You've got a whole, you can't just, a lot of people these days, they just want to hide behind, and this is my term, my words, they want to hide behind preferences. They want to use that as an excuse to not get involved with someone, or claim themselves to be serious about someone. Because if I don't, if I say I have a preference, then I can eliminate having to be serious about certain people,
Mm.
or I show how shallow I am,
Mm.
you know, because
Mm.
my preferences have nothing to do with the character of a man or the character of a woman.
Mhm.
And a
Mm.
lot more relationships, think about that, a lot more relationships wouldn't even happen if those preferences were the principles that you live by, if you have a PBS and a lot more marriages, you would have, and I think a lot of the younger generation, they're getting married later. They're
Mhm.
not getting into, they're not marrying. So
Mhm.
it, that aspect of it, I think, is better because I think they're taking more time to learn as opposed to just jumping into a marriage and then it not working out for them or everything like
Mhm.
that. And I think we all should do that. We all should take our time and get to know someone.
Mhm.
Know someone on a deeper level, not just the surface stuff, whether he has, whether he or she has six figures, whether or not they 6 feet tall. To me, that's
Surface. For
mediocre
sure.
thinking.
Mhm.
That's mediocre thinking. Someone
Mm.
who says that is someone that has a mediocre mindset, a mediocre mentality, and
Come on.
you know, isn't thinking beyond the surface, beyond those, those levels and stuff like that. So I think the more we move away from the preferences and have have solid preferences, if you will, and set standards for yourself. If you're going to set the standards for yourself and you want to set them that high, be willing to accept what comes with that, having those high standards or those high preferences that you say you want to have.
Absolutely. And be the thing that you want. Like
Yep.
you're walking around here talking about these preferences and you don't exude or exhibit those same things. I want a man with this or I want a woman with
Right.
this. You don't exude that. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you be the person that you want? Now, some things are non-negotiable, some things
Right.
are preferences. And at the end of the day, you can decide what you want to do. But if you're having trouble in the dating area, if you're looking for a quality person, and even that show Later Daters, this one guy on there, Nate, he has it together, and this he's just self-sabotaging. It's some amazing women
Mm.
with amazing qualities, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't like the way her finger went to the left." Like it's silly stuff. And the dating coach is like, "Listen, so if you're really saying you're looking for love, and he's sitting there lonely by himself on it days, and he like, dig, I wish I find somebody." But at the same time, it's like you have to give when it comes to certain preferences and just
Have you?
reevaluate. You reevaluate your preferences and you say, these are still my preferences, then that's fine, because I'm not here to tell people how to live their lives and what to do. I'm
Sure.
here to help promote healthy relationships and help you guys find love or stay in the love that you are in.
But here's how bad it's gotten out here as far as society. These dating coaches like Kendra G, and
Mhm,
what was the other young lady that had the her name, I think one is named Kissy Rose or Kitty Rose. She's
mhm,
another one, and
mhm,
the other one was that she did it before them. And she's been married, but she left the date, the matchmaking dating thing. She was like, these women's expectations were, she was like, they're just unrealistic. She was like, I had to leave it. And Kendra, I think, is done similarly the same
mhm.
thing. It's just like, she's like, "Woo, child, these these expectations are just so crazy and
Yes, you got to
unrealistic."
reevaluate.
Yeah, and I mean, ran them out of that particular industry, and man, I'm like, that's crazy. I said, but
Yeah.
it goes to show you that you know, we do have to stop, and I think the biggest contributor to that, the taking the preferences too far,
Mhm,
and where they're unrealistic and everything like that, has been um more lenient on what society thinks of them these days,
mhm,
and they've allowed society to kind of dictate who they are
mhm,
versus being true to who they, being true to themselves and being comfortable
mhm,
with themselves and who they
mhm.
are, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
also a
you can't.
preference could be a preference really not be your preference at all. So many people are
Mhm.
influenced and
Yep.
swayed by what they see on social media or
Yep.
conversations they hear people having, or you see somebody else's wife or husband or boyfriend or girlfriend, and you be like, oh, I want my man, or oh, I want my woman to do that. And sometimes your preferences aren't your own. They could be your parents' preferences and how you were raised.
It,
They could be what you see, and they might not even be your preferences. You might have been holding on to preferences since 1993, right? And it might not even be yours. So I challenge everybody to reevaluate your list. If you have your preferences and you're praying to God for this man or this woman, reevaluate that list.
here's the big question though, Kendall, and I want your listeners to ask themselves this question. If you could have every preference that you want, you
Mhm,
would find that person. Does your preferences want you? Or do your preference, however you say it, do your preferences want
mhm.
you? Is that somebody they would pick you, whoever you have, whatever your preferences are, every single one of them. If
Are
that
you
person
their
were to walk
preference?
up to you, right? If you would have if that person that you feel is your ideal preference, if they were to walk up to you, would they choose you,
That part,
or would
because
they
some
choose?
people will be like, you're like, some people have said, I'm their preference, but they're not my
Hmm.
preference. And I'm sure it's the same. Like, if somebody came
Hmm.
up to me and said, oh, I just like light skinned girls and I want to be with you, I would not be with that person if that's the
Hmm.
only preference that you see. Because to me, it's ignorant. Now you can
Hmm.
have a preference. You can go, the next one might be like, think it's a compliment, but it's not a compliment
Hmm.
to me because I have no control. This is my parents and my genetics. You get what I'm saying? But if you want
Hmm.
a preference of an intelligent woman, then okay, that's me. If you want an educated woman, a funny woman, you get what I'm saying? I have control over that. But what I look like, I have no control over, you
Hmm.
know? So some things, like you saying with height, you got no control over how short you are. That's it. You don't have any control over that. So for someone to shy against something that you have no control over, um is something, and some people might say it's a compliment, or some people might say, okay, it's a preference, or it's a deal breaker, he got to be over 6 feet and all of that. Then they may be missing out, and they may be okay with missing out, and that's quite all right. So as we end, I want to, and Natalie said, help her find love. I got you, Natalie. I got you. I got you. And if you're watching in the Atlanta area, and if you want to travel to Atlanta, our tentative date is April 15th. We have an amazing place that holds almost 300 people. And we're trying to pack that thing out, right? And we're going to be talking about the real in relationships, similar to this. We're going to have guests. We're going to have a panel. We're going to have a whole audience of 300 people. Like, it's not a game. So we might be doing some love connections. I used to have a love connection game. Brother Calvin D. Tucker will tell you about my, remember he was on the panel with you. He'll tell you about my love connection game and my matchmaking skills with folks. But let me just recap our show today. And Leroy, this was great. I knew you were going to be the right person for the job for this. All right. So today we were talking about dating preferences. Are they silly, or are they right on target? Or are they even necessary? So we talked about, so there's the first segment one, we talked about what are dating references, preferences, excuse me, physical appearance, height, emotional, which is communication style, lifestyle, career, homes, income, value. You hear some women be like, I won't date a man with an apartment, or I won't date somebody who don't make 6 figures, or I won't date somebody who, is not a homeowner. I won't date somebody who, has this. Or you hear women and men say all kind of stuff, and they're single, or their relationships are not working. So values, religion, family, some may say those are preferences. Leroy said they are non-negotiables. If we're evenly yoked, he said, if you're a woman, you can't drink or smoke or do drugs. That's a non-negotiable. Some may say it's a preference. It's a non-negotiable, and I totally, agree with that. It is a non-negotiable for many people. Like, I'm not trying to smell like weed. I'm not trying to, be a part of that. That's I don't do it. I'm not judging anybody else. That's your business. I ain't got nothing to do with that. But certain things are. I don't want anybody who is, certain things that are harmful for my health in whatever way that is. And that's self-preservation and that's boundaries, and that's totally different, but some may say it's a preference. So segment 2, we talked about setting boundaries, wanting honesty and stability. That's when preferences are necessary, ensuring and compatibility, shared goals, similar lifestyles. If you are a vegan and your man or woman eat ham sandwiches every day, and they want you to make, he or she wants you to make pork chops every day, somebody might be like, you know what, that's not conducive to my healthy lifestyle. We're not compatible in that way. And that could be a preference, and that could be something that's needed, because later on down the line, if the person never becomes, a person who doesn't eat ham sandwiches or doesn't do this, then that's going to cause confliction in the relationship. All right, segment 3, we talked about when preferences are limiting. So unrealistic standards, as Leroy's talked about. There's nobody out there perfect. So if you've been searching for a man or woman for years, or you keep knocking your head against the wall looking for somebody perfect, they ain't out there. Sorry. None of us can walk on water. None of us are turning water into wine. We're not doing it. Right? So then you have over prioritizing, preferences at the expense of connection. Some people are over prioritizing preferences, and they're losing connection and people they can really connect and build with, because of silly preferences. So people are breaking their rules now and finding love, and loosening up and reevaluating their list. So segment 4, we talked about the remix approach. Of course, I am the remix coach. This is Remixing Relationships. So we talked about preferences. Are they guiding you? Asking yourself, are they guiding you towards or from love? We talked about must-haves and nice-to-haves, the qualities that build lasting relationships. So I just want everybody to just stay open. If you're watching live or the playback, I invite you all to share your own experiences with preferences, and share this video out. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so at Kendall Lanice. Share this to somebody who is looking for somebody, who keeps getting it wrong, or who is in a relationship right now and they want it healthy. All right, my guest today is Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., and you have the final words to this episode talking about dating preferences. Go forth and be
Well,
great, Leroy.
here's the thing. If you're gonna have preferences, which you're totally in the right to be able to have, what I want you to do is make sure that you have yourself together. And the way that I do that, and I hope you don't mind me doing this, Kendall, is especially for the men, but you better understand your power, the power that you have as a man, if you're going to have preferences, just like you want to understand the power that you have as a woman. Because when you walk in your power, as my book says, walk in, you can then say, okay, I have a preference when it comes to who I'm looking for in my faith. I have a
Mm-hmm.
preference when it comes to who I'm looking for, when it comes to family, what I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
for. I have a
Mm-hmm.
preference to when it comes to finances. I have a
Mm-hmm.
preference to when it comes for future or legacy building. I can put those preferences on someone when I myself have placed those same kinds of preferences on myself. I'm making sure that I'm together before I tell somebody else they got to be together.
Mm-hmm.
Understand? Are you walking in your power? And that
Come on.
doesn't mean walking in your power doesn't mean judging someone else because they're not who they may be or whatever. You gotta, hey, always learn this. When you point the finger at someone, you got three fingers pointing back at you.
Come on. That
So
thumb's
do you
point
want?
right back to you.
Yeah, yeah. Do you understand that? And like I said, like Candela said tonight, it's okay to have preferences, but are they realistic? Are those preferences, are they preferences or are they standards? Are those things that they're not, non-negotiables? There's certain things that you may be willing to fluctuate on or be flexible on. I'll say you may be flexible on them because it's like, yeah, if I, like you were saying, Kendall, if I find somebody that has that, oh, that's just icing on the cake. You know what I'm saying? But if they don't, that's something that I can say, okay, yeah. And I think here's the last thing I'll say, Kendall, is I think a lot of times people, when they have a narrow vision of what their preferences are, they miss
Mhm.
out on someone that may not come in the package that they were looking for, but they could be everything that they need. I'll leave it at that.
Yes, say that one more time. Say that part.
No, it is when you're looking for something or someone and you have a narrow view of that is you're still caught up in that box and you say, well, if they don't look like this, if they don't have this, they don't have
Mhm.
that. What you do is you actually keep yourself from being able to see someone that may not necessarily come in the package
Yep.
that you're looking at. You missed out on something that is absolutely, beautiful, fantastic. That could be the greatest thing that you ever came across, but you won't see it because it's not in the package that you want it presented in. It's not in the package that you want it to be wrapped in.
Well, well, you heard it here, and we both said it. So I'm taking applications for Dr. Leroy McKenzie
Oh
Jr.
no, she not.
You
No,
might
she
think,
not, y'all.
no,
Don't
I'm joking.
don't listen to this woman.
I'm joking.
No, she
I'm
is
joking.
that.
But you might miss out on somebody, Leroy is intelligent, right? Leroy is funny. He has a great sense of humor. He's a good person, a man, a godly man, a man of God, and all of these great qualities. And I'm sorry though, Leroy, I'm sorry that some people miss out or passed you by simply because of your height and not really
Mhm.
getting to know you. Because what you do though is you limit yourself. They limited you before they even got to know you.
Mhm. Mhm.
They don't even
That
know you might have all of these things in common. You might be the man of their dreams, but you're in a different package that they were than what they were raised to deem
right.
as sexy or beautiful or a good man or all of these things. And a lot of women are missing out. I know I'm a shout out to Vanique and James. Vanique is probably 5'8", 5'9", and she's married to James. He is a little person. And when I say little person, a little person, not just short. No, I'm serious. Not just short, a little person. And she's all the way up here and he's down there. But when I tell you, that love is real. And when you first see them, you might be like, she's tall and he's short. But the more you see them together, the more it just looks so natural and how it's supposed to be. Now, he treats her so very well. What if she said, I don't I'm 5'8", and she might be 5'7", 5'8". She's tall. She's way taller than I am. So what if she said, you know what? Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Because he's a little person, then she would be missing out on the man that treats her like a queen.
Yeah, and I think a lot of
Mhm.
people when they see something like you were saying, that the first inclination is to make fun of it, to laugh.
Mhm.
You'll get all of these kind of jokes, and I'll say this real quick. When you talked about the men that have this the Napoleon complex, right?
Mhm.
A lot of guys develop the Napoleon complex because every time that somebody sees them or they have these conversations, it's always a thing of being teased about their height. So if
Mhm.
if 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 you're someone who may not be as as thick-skinned as you need to be or want to be or anything like that, then you're gonna, of course, when you got everybody that wants to make fun of you, watch the shows, watch those relationship shows, and when they talk about height, how they make fun of the dudes that are short. There's always
Mhm.
these negative connotations. There's always these snide comments or even jokes that are made about the dudes that are short. So yeah, a lot of guys develop that Napoleon complex because of the way that people perceive them. It ain't even a thing where they know it, they don't know the person, but how they're being perceived, they get seen that certain way. So yeah, I mean, people will see, they'll make little jokes about the couple that you just talked about. Oh, she taking her son out to for lunch or something like that. They'll say something like that. Oh, ain't that cute? They putting them in a high chair. They would make those kinds of derogatory comments about them, and try to make shame of that love, that genuine love. Because I guarantee you, those two that you're talking about, they comfortable with who
Yep.
they are. That's the first thing. It don't matter to neither
Yes.
one of them what anybody else says. They good. They are
They
good.
are. And I love them both. And James is all right with me. Like James, he ain't sitting there because he's a little person. And that's the term now. Some people still
Mhm,
say the M word, but respectfully, little person. And he's funny. He cares for his wife. You know what I mean? They're very much a team. And
mhm.
I love it. And if she would have said, I'm not
Yeah,
dating a little person, she would have missed out on the greatest love of her life.
for
All
sure.
right, everybody.
For
This was
sure.
a good one. I told you I had the right person for this episode because I already knew that you was going to be talking about that, and that is a preference. Um, so tell the people what you have going on right now, how they can get in contact with you, and I want you to talk about the event that you're having with Stephanie.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, absolutely, absolutely. But you can contact us or connect with me through my link tree, and I'll give that because has all of my contact information, all of my social media, has all of my the books that you can purchase because I've written several books. I have this one book that I mentioned. This is the one book that's on for men, dealing with men and understanding the power that we have as men walking in that, and that's HTTP // link LINK.tr.ee /JNF Enterprises. That's the link tree. If you want to shoot me an email, you can email me at JNF Enterprises LLC @gmail.com. I need you to visit my YouTube channel. I have a lot of digital content on there, just like this young lady on here. She I know she she outdoes me with the digital content and putting everything because she's everywhere. But you can visit my YouTube channel as well, and you can put in my name, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., or you can put in JNF Enterprises, which is my company. You can put in either of those. That's the way that you can connect with me. And the event
Tell
that
them
Kendall
what
just
J
mentioned.
and F Enterprise. Go ahead, tell them what J and F Enterprises means. J and F because I think it's powerful.
Yeah, JNF stands for Jesus Never Fails. And what it is that's the name that was given to me when I started thinking about what I wanted my company to represent, which was my faith and my God that I believe in. He's never failed me, never will fail me. He's done everything but fail me. So it was, the impact that I wanted to have was being able to have a business that impacted people in such a way that it made them better after the interaction or the experience with me than they were before the experience that they had with me, just as my Lord and Savior had with me and everybody else that he's had an encounter with. We were all better after that encounter than we were than before the encounter, and that's how I see my business being. That's what I kind of image. I make my business in that imagery where I want to end people's lives in such a way that it makes them better in that way, in that manner. So that's what that stands for. The event that Kendall mentioned is the Ink and Inspiration that is coming up February the 8th. I need you to go. You can, and I'll make sure, Kendall, that I put the link in the description or in the comments. I'm sorry, I'll put it in the comments there so that
Okay.
people can go because it is an in-person event. It's going to be a phenomenal day. I've partnered with Miss Stephanie Ferguson of Books and Bounty, and also Miss Cassandra Ferguson, Cassandra Ferguson, who is the owner of the spot that we will be hosting the event at. And hers is Elevation Media Group. Is the name of her company. But we have it's a day of inspiration. It's a day of books. It's a day of supporting authors and those that are book lovers are from around. If you're in anywhere here in this Baltimore area, you want to be, it's going to be held out in what is that? The White Marsh area
Mhm.
is where the event is. So if you want to, it's going to be February 8th. If you want to be a vendor, we're still looking for vendors, and you can still vend. Or if you want to be a sponsor of the event, we welcome everybody. And this is just the first one in the series that we're going to have this year, because
Mhm.
we're going to have we're going to have some of the events in at the Elevation Media Group's venue. We have some there, and then there's a spot in Baltimore City called the Chill Spot which is on 25th Street, West 25th Street. That we're going to be have some events there as well. Same type of event, but it's going to be held in the city. So if you anywhere around February 8th, we want you to come on through. Hit the link to register for the event. And it's just like I said, it's going to be a great day to be able to come network if you are an aspiring author or an author and you don't necessarily want to be able to vend, but you want to just come and network and hang with some great people, some great minded people. There's even going to be a children's corner. There's going to be a health and wellness. There's going to be a number of types of books that we're highlighting that particular day. There's going to be panel discussions on things too. It's just going to be a great day. And
Mhm.
yours truly, she's going to be a part of this, I believe. I think you said
Mhm.
you're going to be a part of it. So she's
Mhm.
going to be there, and so I think it's going to be just a phenomenal day. And things like this, honestly, when we started talking about these are events that you don't readily see consistently around in
Mhm.
this area, and especially
Mhm.
in the Baltimore County area. So
Mhm.
when Stephanie came with the idea, I was like, oh, that sounds like a great
Mhm.
idea.
Mhm.
So we came together and thought that this would be a great way to put something together for those of us that love books, for the love of books. Ink and Inspiration is what it's called, the title of the event.
I love it. Thank you.
Mhm.
And people don't know, fun fact about me, I think you know this, Leroy, though, but I'm a writer first. I do a lot of things and
Mhm.
wear hats, but writing is one of my biggest passions. And I would say that I'm a writer first. Um,
Mhm.
I just well, poetry. We've done poetry
Mhm.
shows and different things like that, but just writing, expression via words. So I'm excited to be a part of the Book and Bounties event, Ink and Inspiration, on February 8th. So that's going to be good. So if you want to see us there, definitely hit the link that we're going to put there and check it out. Stephanie is amazing, and what she's doing with
Yeah.
Books and Bounty is phenomenal. So anytime that I can be a part of Black folks businesses, right, thriving, in the realm of education and reading. Come on now. Can't lose with that. All right, Leroy, I thank you, brother, for
Yeah.
being on the show. I thank you so much for always saying yes. I don't take that
Yeah.
lightly. You
Yeah.
always say yes, and I appreciate you. I
Oh,
really do.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
I
And I
really
gotta
do.
I gotta holler at you this week too. So let me know. I need to have a conversation with you because I have a couple of things that I need to run by you because you got that inside track on these particular types of these two things and on specific things that I'm looking for. So I need your guidance and expertise on that. So
You
so I
got
need to
it.
call you this week.
Okay, you got it. You got it.
Mhm.
Everybody, that's Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., the impact builder. Make sure you follow him. Make sure you purchase his books and make sure you support him. One thing about my brother here, he supports everybody. He connects people. He connected me with Stephanie, and we've connected each other throughout. And that's what it is. That's what community is. And that's what helping one another reach goals because we can't do it alone. All right, remixing relationships. This is where we remix love to make it better. strongless, and timeless, because it's never too late to remix your life or love. Thank you for joining me today as we explored new ways to remix and strengthen relationships in the vehicle of preferences and dating. Remember, healthy connections are in your reach, and together we can create the love and life you deserve. I am Kendall Anisha, Fave Life Coach, a remix coach, with a reminder: the power to transform is in your hands. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep loving. Until next time, God bless y'all. Peace. Thank you, everybody who stayed the entire time. Your comments, I see them all. I highlighted some of them. If you're watching it live, mwah, mwah, mwah. If you're watching the playback, thank you so much. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and share this video on all your socials. God bless y'all. All right, Leroy. Bye, y'all.
Love you, lady.
Love you back. Thank you for watching. Coach Kendall Anisha.